So today I have with us Mark Young of Bandits Brewery. I want to thank him for coming on a short notice. We were looking for a speaker, and he graciously said, absolutely, I'll come and speak to the club. So I want to thank him for being here today. And he's just going to provide us some updates, some new exciting things that are happening with their company and where they're at today. So, Mark.
Well, guys, as always, I'm always grateful to be here, and I see so many familiar faces to the brewery, and so I'm always grateful for that as well. I don't think I really need to talk about where we have been. I think you all know us pretty intimately well. I thought what I'd like to do is a couple things. We will be celebrating our 5th year in business in another week, if you can believe that. And so we're very, very grateful and excited about that. It's going to be quite the birthday party. So if you're looking to have some fun, come up on the 4th and the 5th. We're having a special menu, as well as releasing 3 special beers, including our bourbon barrel aged stout that's been in a bourbon barrel for 1.5 years. So there'll be some good stuff. We now distribute to 3 states, over 60 distribution partners, and Bobby and I never thought we'd be where we were. Bob is actually working on our canner. We have an automatic canner that will shoot 4,000 cans an hour, and that's what he's doing right now. So that's why he's not here. And here's the lone bandit. So with those fun facts, I guess like I said, I want to keep it brief. I don't want to bore anyone. Does anyone have any questions about what we're doing? Yeah, Bruce.
My question is about your other
Coldwater. Yeah.
Can you tell us what you've done?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Coldwater is the sister brewery to Hicksville. Hicksville is our flagship. It will always be our flagship. It's our home. It's where we started. But Coldwater is sleek. Think stainless and copper and brass. She seats about 217, which is opposed to Hicksville's 98. So she's a little bigger. We are the only brewery in the city of 12,000, 25,000 in Lake. We are the only brewery in Branch County, and we're 2 miles off of 69. So those facts, I think the math speaks pretty well. The numbers are really strong, and we haven't even gotten into lake season yet. So to be quite honest with you, we're a little concerned about that because right now we're selling everything that we're brewing, and it's actually a bigger system than the system that we have here by about 6 barrels. We're trying to gear up, and we're trying to stock up specifically for lake season. And we own 2 canners, and so one of those canners will be going up north so that we can start canning up there as well.
Are you having any problem finding employees? Or?
Absolutely. I mean, who isn't?
Yeah.
The thing about Coldwater is it's a whole other animal. And you would think traveling an hour and 15 minutes north, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. It does. Their work ethic, their way of doing things, how they think, what they say, it's completely foreign to a boy from Northwest Ohio. And when I say this with respect. Their work ethic is not the work ethic that we have around here. It's a very liberal area, and I don't mean that, that's not a political statement, that's a statement of how they think. And it's just different. We're doing well, we're adapting, we're learning. We actually have a pretty solid crew now, and what we're seeing is a semblance of self. We're seeing pride in the brewery, pride in the beer that they're selling, pride in the food, and in the atmosphere. So it's coming, Bob and I knew that there would be growing pains. Anybody who thinks that you're opening up a whole other business and it's gonna just be easy peasy, you're pretty naive. So yeah, it's coming. I think in another 6 months to a year, I think that she'll be running as smooth as Hicksville does. Dirk?
As we've talked in the past, keeping up with the demand for beer's been a bit of a challenge, so you aren't going to be canning every day, obviously. You're probably,
well, we're canning every day now. We're canning.
Yeah, but you're not running it you're not running all day long with 4,000 cans, I don't think.
No, once we get this completely dialed in, I do think that that big cannon will be running though at least probably twice a month, just to meet demand. So for those of you who pay attention, we're going to be retrofitting all of our cans, all the labels with UPCs, which was the next logical step. They don't have UPCs on them now. And the latest beer that we are now having its own independent label is the Brewery, which is our blueberry wheat. And we always had the generic label on that one. It now has its own independent label, like the Killer Bee, like the Dead Frog, like the Raz, like the Shadow, like the London Called. And we went right out of the gate with that one having the UPC on it, because in Michigan, you can't sell canned beer without it having UPC on it. In Ohio, that doesn't matter. So that's something else. Michigan's laws are a lot different than Ohio's in every which way. How you're allowed to sell, where you can sell, it's a very convoluted thing. So I will say that doing business in Ohio is far simpler.
But being in Michigan is what's allowing you, I assume your third state is Indiana.
That's correct. See, that's exactly right. And that's the caveat, if you will. So Michigan has reciprocity laws with Indiana and Wisconsin, which means that we are a bona fide licensed brewery in Michigan, which means then I can sell my product in Indiana and Wisconsin. Ohio only allows you to sell your product within the confines of the state. So that was one of the reasons that we wanted to be up in Michigan, because when one fell swoop, you know, we can be in 4 states. And that was one of the mindsets, and it's still one of the mindsets of the reason that we're there, to be sure.
So if you make beer in Ohio, you can't run it up to Michigan?
That's called bootlegging. They'll put me in jail for that.
Really? Okay.
If you're caught. Yeah, it's the laws go all the way back to Prohibition, and they just haven't changed. And essentially, what that's designed to do is to protect the large breweries, and more importantly, to protect the distributors. And that's essentially what that is, plain and simple. Which is one reason that, you know, Michigan's reciprocity laws, unfortunately, are not the same as they are in Ohio. I wish they were. Yeah. What else? Some good questions.
I understand you're bringing back Oktoberfest?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. We are. So Oktoberfest will be September 17th of this year. And I saw a frown there. Actually, traditional Oktoberfests are in September and in Germany. And one of the reasons, at least for us, is far better weather. You know, September is one of the fairest months of the year. And, you know, we want to make sure that the weather's nice, and hopefully we don't have rain and all that good stuff. But we haven't had Oktoberfest for 2 years, you know. So let me think. 20 we canceled because of COVID, and then of course 21 we opened Coldwater, and we just didn't have the logistical ability to get it done. So we're excited about bringing it back this year. We're looking to have close to 25 breweries there and 5 wineries. So it should be an awful lot of fun. What else?
Who designed your labels?
Oh, that's a great question. So the labels were actually designed with input by me and Bob. There's a company out of Paulding called Natural Design. And they did all of the design work on our labels. So like everything that we do, we try to be as local centric as we can. I think it's important. It's important to the local economy, and I think it's important to small business. So yeah, literally designed about 15 minutes from here.
How many distributors or distribution places are you delivering to in Ohio, and how far out away are you getting now with that?
Yeah, so the bulk of our distribution partners are in Ohio. I mean, obviously, in Michigan, we're just getting started, so ergo, we don't have a lot in Michigan or Indiana yet, and that's very fine, because we're still dialing in the brewery up there. So we are all the way on the east side of Toledo, and then we are as far south as Fort Laramie, which is roughly about an hour north of Dayton. So, and then of course, you know, that whole hemisphere between those 2 points. So we're in quite a few places. 60, I think, is the total right at the moment. A lot of locals, but also a lot of them for several, just, a couple hour drive distance. So the good thing is that the distribution partners that do stock our product and they're a distance away, they're very gracious, and they always order an awful lot at once because they know the drive time, so it makes it worth our while.
You still make the honey?
The Killer Bee? Yep. We'll probably never stop that one. I mean, it's one of the most expensive beers to make, and also happens to be our best seller. Go figure. Yeah, we'll never stop that one. Yeah, it's just too darn popular.
Edgerton still supplies?
Yep. The honey farm on the north side of town.
Okay.
Yep. That's the only place that you can get that we're aware of goldenrod honey, and that's the specific honey we use in that beer. We've tried other honeys. We've tried clover and wildflower. We even went to an orange blossom just to try it, and the beer was not the same. So we've stuck with the goldenrod. The old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Good question.
I was wondering, with all your distribution territories, do you ever kind of come with surprises where they might like a certain style of beer, one of your beers, more than others? When you reach out to those distribution points, you're like, that's kind of strange, like Fort Laramie, they might buy a certain.
Right. So,
just like different.
well, I think what's really interesting is that you can have a couple places. So there's a couple of bars in Defiance that stock our beer, and they're literally 2 blocks away. And the one takes almost exclusively our stouts, all of our dark beers. And the one that's 2 blocks away, they can't sell stouts to save their life. And it's literally 2 blocks away. So you have anomalies like that, things that you just wouldn't think of. We supply the Bryan Eagles, and it's the first Eagles that we've ever been in. And when I say this with respect. I mean, I never thought that we would be in a place like the Eagles. It's usually, more of your buds and your cores and that type of thing. Interestingly enough, they go through an awful lot of our beer, kegs and cans. Yeah.
What's the shelf life on a can of beer?
So that's a great question. So
Not that you would ever.
yeah. So we're very fortunate that we don't really have to worry too much about that because it sells off the shelf as fast as we put it on the shelf. But we have done some tests, and we've had our beer in a cool, dark area for 10 months, and then popped it, and it was as fresh and good as the day that we canned it. The secret to a good canned beer is making sure that you get the DO removed out of the beer before you can it, the dissolved oxygen. Oxygen is the enemy of beer. A lot of people don't know that our tanks that have beer in them, the big stainless tanks, there's no oxygen in those tanks. It's beer and CO2. So the secret is getting as much of that DO out of that can before we pop that lid and seal it. And so we try to do a really good job of that. Our big canner is really, really good at removing 98% of the DO. So if you can get that removed, your beer's going to last an awful long time. Then, of course, obviously, keeping your cans in a place that's relatively stable in temperature and in a dark area. Even specifically bottles, you want to keep them in a very dark area too. But coolness is the real factor, and a beer will last an awful long time in a can.
Now you're talking about canning beer, and I can't remember when we talked past it. Do you ever consider bottling then, or?
Well, so it's funny you should say that because we actually have a beer that we bottled specifically for our birthday, and that's that bourbon aged stout. It's called the Dillinger, and we think it's aptly named. I mean, John Dillinger, for you history buffs out there, he actually robbed banks in this area. I mean, he robbed banks in Auburn, for instance, and we're bandits, and so was he. So we think that the name's kind of apropos, but it is in a 24-ounce bomber that's wax sealed. We did a Irish Red,
The Red October.
the Red October last year, same way. they proved very successful for us. We have 160 of those for our birthday, and I predict they'll be gone those 2 days. So yes, to answer your question, we do bottle, but it's very rare. It's a complicated process, and it's an expensive process. So the majority of what we will do, and always will do, will be cans. They're lighter, they're more economical. It just makes a lot more sense fiscally.
Are you all 12 ounce?
No, they're all 16s, pints. Yeah, that's a proper beer can, is a pint. Yep, yep.
You don't have any gluten-free products?
We have no gluten-free beers. You know, we experimented with them a little bit, and we couldn't find one that tasted very good. Yeah, I mean,
I
it's
can't
that
have
simple.
wheat anymore, so there goes the beer, and it's.
Is that right?
It's that day.
Is that why you haven't been in lately?
Well, no, well, yeah. But thanks for letting us order off the menu on it.
Absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, you know, we've just not really found a gluten-free beer that's worth a damn.
It's not as good.
Unfortunately, we do offer several different ciders that are gluten-free, and so that's kind of what we try to steer our people that have allergies to, and it seems to work pretty well. What else? Some good questions.
How do you ship? How do you ship your product?
So myself and our financial officer, Angie Freese, are the delivery drivers. And we'll load up we have a van, it's called the Brubelance, and it's all done in our colors. If everyone who's seen it, they know it, you can't miss it. And you know, we'll have, on a good day, we'll have 30 kegs in there and maybe 10 cases. And away we go. And we're out from, you know, 7 in the morning to probably 6 or 7 at night. So it just depends. There are weeks where we have 2 or 3 days we're delivering, and there are weeks when we have maybe 1 day that we're delivering. But we try to get all of a certain area at the same time. You know, if we're headed south, we really try to get everyone that takes from the south, try to get all their orders that time. Or if we're headed east, same thing. So that, you know, it makes it a little more efficient. So we're not headed south and all of a sudden we're going over to Toledo. You know, we try to make it efficient for everyone.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Due to supply and demand, and supplies increasing continually, and are you having impacts on how you're making your product and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so everything is going up, and you know, you can talk all you want about politics, about COVID, but everything in this world is going up. And unfortunately, it's going up rapidly. The cost of cans, the cost of honey, the cost of grains, payroll. Payroll is through the roof. And any of you small business owners can probably attest to exactly what I'm saying. So that being said, you know, unfortunately, you know, we have to adjust prices so that we can continue to grow and thrive. We recently adjusted the price on a pint of beer from $5 to $6. And that's the first price increase we've had in 5 years. And I'm very proud of the fact that we held the line as long as we did, because I know a lot of our sister breweries in the area are charging $7, $8, $9 a pint. So I feel that still at $6, we're very, very competitive and very reasonable. And I think that, you know, my guests tell me this. We've had the price increase since the beginning of January. That's when we enacted it. And, you know, of the thousands of people have come through our doors since then, not one person has said a word about it, not one. So that tells me that, you know, it was time, and it was a fair increase. You know, and you know, again, I wasn't happy about it, but I got to do what I got to do to make sure we continue to grow. Yes, sir.
I go like in the marathon station, and they sell so many things I never heard of.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're alcohol or if they're
Energy.
Right.
Big six.
lemonade or what they are, but there's so many names. Are many of those non-alcoholic?
Well, I think that if they're in the beer cave, more than likely they're alcoholic, would be my guess. Most beer drinkers drink beer because they like the taste, but they also want the alcohol. You know, I mean, yeah, you have a few people that, you know, they want the non-alcoholic beer, but it's not a huge cash cow. You know, so I guess without me going down there and looking at everything that they have, I'm going to say probably 95% of what's in that beer cave is alcoholic. Yeah.
So, in your distribution, are all your cans being sold at your bars and stuff you deliver to, or are you guys, and seems like you told me at one time, you're hoping at some time to be on the shelves in stores and stuff like that somewhere, you know, are you there yet?
Yeah, so I would say 75–80% of our distribution is keg, okay? Which means it's going to a restaurant, a bar, a winery, someone that has a permanent tap system. The other 30% is cans, and that's growing. We actually are at a supermarket in Delphus. We're at several gas stations. We're actually at Defiance Beverage, which is a big mecca for all things alcoholic. We actually have front row, eye level spacing right in their cooler. So we enjoy a very good relationship with them. But cans are getting bigger and bigger as we branch out and as we get bigger. Once we get this new canner completely dialed in, it's not just to provide us 4,000 cans an hour. It's also going to give us the ability to be able to be at Slattery's in all 5 locations, which he wants. And the only reason we're not there now is because I feel that I can't service him the way he needs to be serviced. And when Two Bandits makes a commitment to someone or a cause or an event, it's our word. And he knows, and he's patiently waiting. Same thing with Sailors. They also want our beer, but I only have so much. And the reason that we haven't gotten very what's the word I'm looking for, aggressive here in Hicksville is because, well, we're here. So I mean, worst case scenario, you want our beer, you can come to us to get it. Eventually, we're going to be at the gas stations, but I would rather have our gas station, our beer at Defiance and Fort Laramie and Toledo and West Unity and Napoleon, because obviously it's a lot longer drive for them. So that was our mentality, is get it out there from all these outlying communities. And then once we have the tools, in this case that canner, in place and working properly, then we'll start saturating here in Hicksville as well. Can I ask your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. What else?
You got the best bacon around.
Well, thank you. It's actually pork belly. Yep.
Close enough.
Yep, thanks. Guys, as always, thank you very much. I really appreciate you, and thank you for the questions. They were wonderful.